Hey everybody. That is Hemingway. Whoa, come on, bud. I don't know what he's doing. So, I hope all of you are doing well. First things first. I was teaching last week at Napa Valley College, and there was like a group of, I don't know, like 6 or 7 students, and one of them said, "Hey, that's a nice hat." And I said, "Thank you." And then all of a sudden, they like busted out into full on like some kind of dancing and some kind of like song, and they were doing like kicks and weird stuff. So I had fight or flight kick in. I chose flight. I ran away from there, and I have no idea. I think maybe they were going to beat me up. They were singing some kind of like old timey tune and doing some kind of choreographed something. My wife thinks that I'm making too much out of it. She goes, "Hey, they're probably just students that are in the musical theater program." But it was really intimidating, and I don't know quite what to make of it. I think I'm going to avoid that area of campus from now on, and yeah, so pretty straightforward week, right? I don't want to bog you down with too much, so let's just go over what's on the list. You have the final draft of the essay due September 22nd. So if you have any questions or need help to get going, please feel free to message me on Canvas. I don't often check my other campus email because I get like 100 messages a day, and very rarely do any of them have anything to do with me. So my hope is that all of you have found something that you are interested in writing about. I will work to take a look at the pre-writing and the outlines. So check those assignments for comments. I will often leave comments, and I'll start looking at a lot of those hopefully tomorrow. So if you get it in kind of early, tomorrow there's a really good chance that you'll get some feedback on kind of the rough draft or the pre-writing or something. And then you have peer reviews, which should hopefully be helpful. Doing peer reviews online, it's a little strange in that some people might not be responsive. So to mitigate that, I'm putting you in larger groups. So maybe, yeah, they're mostly groups of 5. There's one group of 4, and then amongst yourselves, you can decide who will work on kind of whose draft, right? If you set it up and someone doesn't respond quickly or in time, just kind of move on. Work with whoever is present and responsive within your group, right? If there's a paper whose subject matter is really kind of stressful to you, then just kind of politely pass on it, right? And it could be anything. A couple years ago, my wife and I got hit by a drunk driver. I had a student last year who wrote a paper kind of dealing with overcoming physical stuff after being hit by a car, and it was really hard for me to read. I read it because that's I get paid to read it. So, but I understand, right? If I was a student, I would not have wanted to read it, and so that's okay. If you hit a subject or topic that you don't want to read, just kind of politely pass on it. If if an essay or really any part of it is AI generated, you don't need to read it. I don't want you to have to waste your time, right? Your time is valuable. You don't need to spend it looking at work that someone didn't do themselves. And if you don't feel like saying it outright, just make up an excuse. Say, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm not feeling good today. Or, you know what? I got last minute Drake concert tickets, so I'm going to that tonight. So I'm sorry I can't help you with that. So do notice the quick turnaround time on the peer reviews. And I will not be accepting peer reviews that are more than 24 hours late because the final drafts are due really pretty shortly afterwards. So Yeah, it will be up to you as a group to decide who works on whose draft. Usually, at least 1 out of 5 people will be organizationally or task orientated persons. So, if someone kind of takes the lead and you don't want to, it might be a good idea just to let them. As a group, you don't really want to get bogged down in the process of kind of just deciding things, right? So, I would like each of you to spend at least, right? And normally this is something we would take a whole class period to do if we met in person. So spend at least 1.5 hours. Um, yeah. So I'm asking you to kind of spend the equivalent of one class period on these, and they won't be the only ones we do. If I was a student who was really trying to help people in my group, I personally, I might spend a few hours, right, trying to kind of look at all this stuff. The assignment calls for you to work on at least one other person's draft. I'd say if you're looking for an A on the assignment, I would definitely work on more than one person's draft. For each person's essay that you work on, either take photos or screenshots to show your suggestions and helpful comments. So you are submitting photos of the essays that you work on, right? And in those photos, all your markings or annotations should be there. You're not submitting photos of your own essay. In peer groups, I find it helpful to ask. That's Marlo, and that's our permanent dog. We have a foster dog right now too. I find it helpful to ask people how they like their feedback, right? Do you want people to be really critical? Do you want a mix of things that work well and things that could be strengthening? Do you want somebody to only highlight what is working well, right? Many people, myself included, right? I like a blend, right? I want to hear what you would think is working well, and I would also want to hear some constructive criticism. Sometimes people think they want like a really critical truth, and then they realize that it doesn't feel good because, in truth, pretty much any essay can be really pulled apart and criticized, right? So, I mean, even diamonds, right? If we look through with enough magnification, right, they're full of flaws, right? And sometimes, if we're working on building our confidence and hearing positive things is the most helpful to us, right? Many people, right, once you're told you're doing a good job at something, it just makes you want to do an even better job. So kind of think about yourself and really take a moment to kind of think about what kind of feedback you want from the group and, express that to the group, right? So as a group, it's a good idea to check in and see how everyone wants their feedback served. Right? And there's benefits to each type of feedback. There's no right or wrong answer. And as a group, to consider other people's feelings is just honestly a really nice and kind of caring thing to do. So I am planning on keeping the same groups together throughout the semester. Open a discussion page for each group. Those discussion pages are for your particular group only. Each one of them has a Broadway musical name. In the latest announcement, you will see group names and the people that are in each group. So just go to the announcement, find your name, look at the name of the musical. Let's say you're in the Cats group. Go to discussions. You will see a discussion page that says like the Cats group. Please also look over the checklist. I posted like kind of an academic essay checklist, although it's not really a checklist. Things that are commonly found in academic essays. I do give a little bit of advice on this essay specifically, right? It's a personal response essay. You do want to insert yourself into this essay. Use the I voice while you're writing, right? When you're kind of analyzing and making commentary, right, it wants to be from your personal perspective, right? Or a blend of personal evidence or personal explorations, personal commentary, right? That's supported by, how did you come up with that belief or that personal view? And that's kind of evidentiary based, right? A lot of critical thinking depends on us being able to access what we personally think and feel. So just to kind of really reiterate, these want to be personal response essay, an essay that pretty much only you as a unique individual could write. Think of it maybe like writing an essay for a friend as opposed to writing an essay for something like the SAT, right? So yes, I want technical goodies like solid thesis, topic sentences, supportive evidence, but it does not need to be impersonal. So I am encouraging you on this essay, let yourself be you. And if you feel unsure, you can just message me on Canvas. And then finally, a sneak peek at what's in the future. I am a little tired. So after these essays are turned in, we are going to shift from a feminist lens to a sociological lens, right? And specifically, we are eventually going to read Harvest Gypsies, right? At least I think about 40 pages of it anyways. I will provide that. It's a series article that John Steinbeck wrote during the Dust Bowl in the Great Depression, right? The articles are set in Central Valley, California. And really, a lot of them explore kind of aspects of like Okie migration and hate directed towards Okies, right? Okies is a derogatory term that kind of comes from people related to Oklahoma or the surrounding area. And during the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression, there was a mass migration of people from kind of the Oklahoma, Kansas, other parts of the country into California. And they were not met with kindness for the most part. And many of them died because of the cruelty they were met with in the Central Valley of California. Along with that, we're going to be exploring George Takei's graphic novel, They Called Us Enemy. And I hope all of you know who George Takei is, right? It's kind of a wonderful human being. He played Sulu on the original Star Trek series. Great sense of humor, a spirit of advocating for all kinds of good things. I'll try to post a good interview with him. Anyways, it's George's memoir. It also starts out, it's set in California. It's about being an American and being sent as a young boy to a Japanese internment camp in America, right? Because of racist policies towards Japanese Americans. So the internment camps happened during World War II, right? Now, obviously they're unconstitutional. Racist policies led to the death and kind of ruin of a lot of Japanese Americans and the prosperity of Japanese American families, right? So both of those books, they explore larger sociological issues. So to get us started, please sometime this week, there's a linked documentary in this week's module. It's called We Came to Grow, Japanese Americans in the Central Valley. It's about 30 minutes long. It's going to set you in some of the first Japanese settlers in California. So it's a really interesting video, and there's 2 other parts to it that we will be watching the following week. If your video prompts you to say if PBS is your local station or something like that, just click yes. If you have a problem viewing it, please let me know. When you watch it, do take notes. If you find something particularly interesting, note the timestamp on the video of what interests you, right? Because at some point you're going to want to refer back to some of these things. So I think that's it. Yeah, hope you're all doing well. Have a happy Saturday and Sunday. Bye for now.